Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's live interactive session. I am Sarah Ganella, Partner and Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Full Sail Partners, and I'm thrilled to have you join us for what will be, I'm sure, an insightful conversation about scaling your firm with the right tools. So, to get started, let's warm things up because it's still a little chilly. And tell us if you're currently using Sage or another ERP system. And if you have no idea what that even means, tell us how you're currently entering in timesheets. And we'll come back to those answers here in a minute. And so today we're diving into GOTECH's journey as they transition from Sage to Deltek Vantagepoint. And it was a decision that has helped them tackle manual bottlenecks, improve reporting, and position their firm for growth. And today I'm joined by Tammy Minier, GOTECH's accountant, who played a key role in this transformation. And she's here to share her firsthand experience, lessons learned, and tips for firms considering a similar move. So, good afternoon, Tammy. To start things off, maybe you can just give the audience a little bit more about your company and a little bit more about you and even your role.
Okay. I am the accountant for GOTECH. We are a consulting engineering firm. We've been around for over 35 years. I've been here 9 and we've used Sage the entire time. I do all of the accounting functions from payroll to AP to bank recs to journal entries. So, if anyone has a question specifically related to any area, I can probably answer that. And that's what I do during the day. But in the evenings and weekends, I also have my own podcast called Grits with a Side of Murder. And it's a true crime podcast. So check us out.
I'm definitely going to have to check that out. So this was something new to me. So I love that you have the day job and then you have the night or the weekend
Yeah.
job, and so that's exciting. And so what we do have some people joining us as well. So let's just go ahead and say hello to them. And so just so you know, sometimes you have to give LinkedIn a little bit of permission to see us. So I do see someone coming in here and they said they're using Core for time entry. And so if you want us to see your name, you just have to give LinkedIn permission. Lindsay's in the back. She's just letting us know to remind you to tell us about whether you're using Sage or another ERP system. So we definitely want today to be interactive. We also want you to ask questions and things like that. So please add that in there. Okay, so let's jump in. Whether you're exploring ERP solutions or just curious about what goes into a successful implementation, you're in the right place. So be sure to stick around for the live Q&A at the end to get your questions answered. Tammy, I want to first start off with, when did you realize you needed to make a change?
Well, from my perspective, the project managers were coming to me asking for reports on their individual projects. And Sage I couldn't accomplish what they needed reporting wise. And I wasn't really involved in making the initial decision or even involved in the sales portion. But I know that we had other people in the office who have used Deltek before, and that's kind of how we started going in that direction.
Yeah. And so it sounds like those project managers weren't getting quite the information they were needing. And that's very common on why it is people come to us, just because being a project based firm, we need that further information on whether it's job costing or being able to do things from a work breakdown structure. And so I know that several individuals, so your operations manager, for example,
Yes,
was one of the individuals that had vision along with some of your other staff members,
yes,
and so
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, they had used Vision in the past and they really liked it. And, I think the big word I will use is utilization. We
Mm,
needed utilization reports and we just could not produce that from Sage. So,
okay. And
um,
that
an-
was and it was manual. A lot of the stuff was manual.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. As far as payroll goes,
Mm,
I've felt we needed a change for a long time because we were still on paper timesheets, and I was data entering every line item for each person every 15 minutes that they worked on what jobs. So uh, we needed to streamline that process. It was taking entirely too long to do that.
Yeah. And so I'm curious if people in the audience can relate. And so, doing those manual timesheets and needing project reporting, let us know if that's something that you can relate to. And so tell us also a little bit about maybe a little bit more about what actually led to you guys truly switching and then moving to Vantage Point.
So we actually looked at another software as well, and I think the big thing was several people had used Vision before and knew that it was user friendly, easy to navigate. Um, Ultimately, like I said, I wasn't involved in the beginning, and I didn't make the decision
Hmm.
to choose it. But I'm so glad we did because it's an amazing and powerful software.
Yeah, that's great. And so maybe let's dive in a little bit more on what it is that, aspects of the implementation plan and maybe the processes that stood out to you.
Okay, so the implementation plan, I would say for anybody who's thinking about implementing any software, get the necessary people involved from the beginning so that everybody can have input.
Mm.
Um, I didn't get that opportunity, but luckily it all worked out. I think the implementation process with Full Sail was great. I mean, um, Terry was our partner, I guess, in the whole process, and she was amazing. Um, I would say make sure to do, tell her from the beginning what you're needing out of the system so that it can be set up properly. Also, make sure that you know, get all the training in that you can before each time you meet.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and so a part of that process, what were some of the other things that you guys were uh, needing to be able to also deal with? So I know that in addition to accounting functionality, some of the basic things and that you also needed to consider payroll as well, and you had made some
yes,
decisions there.
yes, we definitely we used ADP, and Vantagepoint is able to export um, our payroll into a file, and we can just upload it into ADP. And now all of the employees are entering their own time. Each supervisor that supervises that particular employee will go in and review the time and approve it. So I'm not doing any data entry anymore for any of that, as well as expense reports. Employees are also now entering their own expense reports. So from a non-accounting accounting perspective, the project managers, like I said, with Sage, we really couldn't tell what our job costs were. We couldn't tell which portions of the business, what the utilization rates were for which portions of the business. So I think that for us, there was a lot of factors and a lot of changes that needed to be made.
Yeah. And so it sounds like one of the key things that, even though it worked out, it sounded like one of the key things that maybe you would have switched is making sure you have all the right individuals involved. And
Yes.
so, who do you think should be some of those key individuals?
I would say, depending on the size of your firm, maybe an operations manager, a project manager. In my case, I have one accounting person. I think that person needs to be involved if
Yeah.
you're changing for accounting reasons, like we were. Um, just key people, but somebody from each group in the organization, I think is important.
Mhm.
So everybody can think on the same page moving forward.
Yeah. And so once you really got involved, at first you guys were taking a little bit of a slower, approach, at the beginning, but then you guys decided, hey, we really need to get into this implementation and speed things up. Can you talk a little bit about that experience?
So I think we had been doing some trainings, I want to say maybe like 5 or 6 months. I can't remember the exact time frame. And then all of a sudden, my operations manager is like, enough of that. Let's just jump in and do this thing.
Mhm.
So it was a little frightening at first. I wasn't as familiar as the system as I wanted to be, but it worked out because Terry was great helping us the whole way. She came to the office, which I would highly recommend if anybody can do that. Have your trainer come to the office in person. I mean, our employees, were trained on how to fill out their timesheets, their expense reports. I was trained on billing and things like that. So it was really good.
Yeah. And so, as an example, your timesheets, all of that old process was paper timesheets.
Yes,
So that
it
was a significant change.
huge. Yes, it was. I mean, still to this day, I'm like, oh wow, I don't have to do that anymore.
For me, it's hard to imagine that. Maybe from looking at it from their perspective, what is their perspective now, and not doing it from a paper perspective, and now them actually entering in their own timesheets and expense reports as well.
The employees,
Yeah.
we, as with anything, change is difficult for some. So we initially had, a few people that weren't right on board, but for the majority of our employees, not only did they get it, but they got it quickly.
Hmm.
And I mean, it's just better. I mean, there's not going to be, take, for example, they put something in a paper timesheet, then I have to rekey it. And the supervisor has to look at a paper timesheet. And there's just so much more room for error than the employee saying, this is what I did. These are the hours I worked. They put the job it goes to, everything. The supervisor reviews it and then it shoots to me for processing. So
Okay. Well, before I ask you to walk us through your implementation timeline, I do have another question for the audience. So, if you had to pick one, what's your best or your biggest, not your best, but your biggest headache, timesheets, reporting, or data entry? And so, comment with your answer. So, if you had to pick one, what's your biggest headache, timesheets, reporting, or data entry? Uh, me, I love reporting. Timesheets, not so much. Data entry, I can, I'm always looking at easier ways or things to do. What about you? What's your biggest headache with those?
I feel like now that we are in Vantagepoint, I really love reporting because there's so much you can do. Just
Hmm.
and it's fun to build the reports, to customize them. Biggest headache now, I mean, I don't really have to do timesheets anymore. So
Yeah.
data entry is maybe that's it. Data entry.
I know, but if I'm finding, better ways to even do that as well. With being able to speak things in from a data entry perspective. So that's becoming even easier and just automation through the tool. So, that is always a great thing to be able to find better ways to automate things.
Well, I definitely can't complain about data entry, honestly, because in Vantagepoint, I can scan an invoice in
Mm,
from a vendor and it picks up the invoice number, the dollar amount, the day. I
yeah.
mean, I'm not having to worry about rekeying something and making a mistake. It's
Yeah.
really it's amazing. I just just let everybody know I'm not a paid I'm not a paid person here, but this software is really great and Full Cell really did make a difference in implementation.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. And I know you had mentioned Terry. Terry is backstage with us. She is one of your consultants, or the consultant that came on site with you. And so I know that she did a phenomenal job. So I'm glad to hear that. All right. Well, let's walk through a little bit on the timeline. So can you walk us a little bit about, as an example, when your firm decided to make the move, purchasing the software, implementation up until the go live dates? How many months did that take?
Okay, I'm looking at some notes here. It looks like we first purchased the software in March of 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we started having consultant meetings with Terry, but we really didn't get off the ground until like April. Because, well, one of the reasons why was because we had trouble getting some of the historical data from Sage over
Mm-hmm.
to Vantagepoint. There was not a really an easy way to capture that. So Terry was huge in, being able to help me export what she needed into tables and Excel sheets, and then she was able to get the information into Vantagepoint. So that took a little while.
Mm-hmm.
May to June were meetings and data, imports and exchanges, also some setting up. July, August, and September, we did some administrative training on the how-tos, like record creation, transactions, processing, things like that.
Yeah.
Then the final processing in Sage was in September, and our go live in Vantagepoint was October. So we're now, we have a full quarter of data already in. And what was surprising to me was how just with that small time frame, we can already get reports out that are being beneficial to management.
That's great.
Yeah, so I guess from March to October, basically 8 months or so
Mm-hmm.
that it took for the whole process. Like I said, at one point, like around the beginning of September, the operations manager said, "Okay, we're just jumping in. So it might have taken us even longer if he wouldn't have said that. So I'm glad he just said, bite the bullet, let's go."
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm looking to hear from anybody out there as to any of the headaches that your biggest headache. So timesheet reporting or a data entry, and so we would love to hear from you, and also just add questions that you also want to know. We are working, with Tammy on just understanding more about her process, but there might be specific things that you want to know. You're thinking about maybe taking the leap from one software to another, and questions that you just want to ask someone on the things that will help you to decide whether to do that or not. And
Yeah.
so, yeah. And so, Tammy, what are some of the best practices you could recommend to others when they are implementing VantagePoint and either moving from another ERP, or maybe even, we have people that are upgrading to from Vision as well, but just things that you think would be good for people to keep in mind?
So many things. I have learned so many things that have nothing to do with the software. Okay, for starters, if you're not familiar with Teams, get yourself familiar with Teams. It's a huge tool that you can use to save time, and what I would say, save time and money when you're going through implementation. It's a
Mm-hmm.
great place to write down questions so that you don't forget what you need. It's a great place to review before you have your training sessions so you know exactly what you want to go over. Also, get folks involved, as I've said a couple times from the beginning, who need to be involved. This is an example. The person in the office who was initially receiving, "Hey, okay, welcome aboard. We want you to go to the learning zone. We want you to sign up and start watching some of these videos." I didn't get that until maybe the third training session in, so I was behind from the get go. I was playing catch up. Definitely get those people involved who need to be watching those videos before they have the training session with the consultant.
Yeah, I think
Um,
that's a really good point. So it's not necessarily the signer. So making sure
no.
that you're getting the doers involved.
Yes, if there are doers here, y'all know what I mean. Okay, so once you're involved, you need to watch those videos. Do everything you can. Um, we're a small company, so I was trying to catch up watching videos, do the training sessions, and still do my day-to-day work. So there
Mhm.
was, a lot going on. If you have someone to help you, you'll really benefit from taking time. Let them help you with your day-to-day work and you focus on watching and these learning zone videos before you have your training session each week, or twice a week. So that's important too.
Okay.
Uh, there's also, let's see what else I have in my notes here. I guess that covers that portion. What
Yeah.
did you have anything else that you wanted me to speak to on that?
Yeah, yeah, so it's mainly just, understanding a little bit more. So it sounds like some of the key things, if I sort of recap what I heard, is that sometimes it's getting familiar with other software that can help you. So Teams,
Yes.
familiarizing yourself, and you guys use that really to keep track. So that's a part of our process that we have in place, but it sounds like you found value in that because you were really able to. And I also understand you were one of the best people that Terry has ever experienced as far as understanding and really utilizing Teams, and you used it in a very effective way.
Well, I had never used Teams before. We had never done Zoom meetings before in our office. I was I was learning a lot of things at one time, and to me, one of the worst things is you're spending money to get on a training call, and I would feel like if I wasn't prepared or didn't have my questions somewhere,
Hmm.
then I was gonna be wasting my time and my money.
Yeah.
So I would use Teams to keep track of everything. We could share documents there. I mean, people are probably laughing right now because everybody in the world probably uses Teams and Zoom, and but we really didn't have a need for it. So
Yeah.
I was happy that I got to learn that and use it.
But it sounds like being able to use the right tools to keep organized, and that really helped you to understand like what were the questions you needed to ask, and also just making sure that from my understanding, you were really good at just notes and having lists and the things that needed to happen. But so many times, people are given tools. We see it all the time, and they're not actually utilizing it. So not only with Teams, but also utilizing the ERP system. So, you're investing this money into things, then, figure out the things that need to happen, get the right people involved. And as you said,
Absolutely.
you take advantage of the training, the videos and all of those things to be able to help you to also minimize the amount of things that you're doing. You're coming well informed into the meetings and asking questions, informative questions, instead of teach me everything.
Yes. I mean, there were times in the beginning, especially when I was not caught up, and I just simple things like, okay, when it's time for our Zoom meeting to do the training, you know, I need to have Vantagepoint pulled up. I need to have the screen shared. Just all these different things that it took me a minute to go. Okay, this can be more efficient. These tools are helping. They're amazing.
Yeah. And I think one thing to note for our audience is you, for the most part, did a lot of this on your own. Like you were the
Hmm.
person.
Yeah, I was the person. Yeah, I think there was some concern. Like I said earlier, if you have someone to help you, please take advantage of that. I think there was some concern initially that it was going to be too rough for one
Mm.
person to do, but I have, you just do what you got to do.
Yeah. And I think that that's great insight to understand that you felt like you had the support system, you had the things that would keep you on track, so you were able to manage that. And I do think that a lot of times people that are coming into this, they are the sole accountant, and they're looking at how am I going to do this and my job. So it seems like the organization, getting yourself informed, going back to some of the other things you said, spending that upfront time to be able to have more informed questions. Those were probably some of the key things that sounds like that really helped you along the way.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so you've been on Vantage Point now for about 3 months. What has been your experience now with using Vantage Point?
Uh, it's amazing. I, I I mean, everything's easy to use. Full Cell Partners, the support's amazing. Um, I, I mean, I really haven't had a negative experience. If instead of saying, can the system do this? Terry always told us, don't think of it like that. The system can probably do it. So let's just talk about how to make the system do it.
Okay.
So it's really just been, I see as time goes on, I'm going to work myself out of a job.
I don't think that that's possible. There's always going to be things there, but if you can maybe talk a little bit about that experience, how people are helping themselves with the things that they typically had come to you for.
Yes, it's really great. And when someone makes an error on their timesheet or expense report, I don't fix it for them. I send it back to their supervisor. Their supervisor has, rejects it, and then the person needs to correct it. So they're learning too. I'm not just fixing things for them. They're learning how to go forward and do the process correctly.
Yeah. And then you'd also mentioned your operations manager, Rob. You know, a lot of times he's not coming to you. He's able to get that information.
Yes, yes. And we are looking forward to soon, hopefully in the next month, starting dashboards.
Mm,
And we will be able to give these guys more information at their fingertips rather than coming and asking, can you run me this report or how does this work? And
yeah.
we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, and you guys, if I can circle back, one of the other things that you had mentioned is doing the manual timesheets, for example. But a lot of times the barrier that we found is that people don't necessarily want to change, and they're using their phone for other things. But what have you found as far as the experience of them utilizing now technology like their iPhones or iPads in doing that? How successful has that been?
That's been, we have a wide age range of employees, especially the younger generation. I mean, they picked it up in like 10 minutes and they were just off and running. They never have any problems. You know, others, most of our employees in the field have some type of iPad or laptop. So I think it's easier for them to have the versatility. If they want to use their phone, they can. But if they want something a little bigger, like I prefer,
Mhm.
they have a laptop or iPad that they can enter their time and expenses on. And I mean, overall, nobody really complained. We thought we would have some complainers, but
Mhm.
overall, it went really smoothly. And, if they have questions, they talk to their supervisor, they work it out, and then they know how to move forward.
Yeah. It's interesting, even when we've adopted new technology, you always have that fear of what if. What if, oh my gosh, everybody is upset, or what if, all of these types of things. What would you say as far as maybe overcoming the fear in not making a decision?
Um, Overcoming the fear and not making the decision. I'm kind of a no nonsense. If it were up to me, we probably would have started a long time ago with the change. As far as the employees go, I'm kind, but I'm tough too. So they know that they're going to need to learn it, and I'm not going to do this for them anymore. And there really wasn't any argument about it. So I guess if somebody's looking at it from that perspective, just be kind but firm.
Yeah. I like that. I think that's always a good approach, kind, firm, direct,
Yep.
because direct is kind.
They know what to get. They know what to expect when they're, coming to me for something.
Yeah. I know one of the other areas you focused on or that changed was invoicing. Maybe you can tell us a little
Oh,
bit about what
wow.
that invoicing process looked like and now what it's like.
We it's kind of hard to talk about the way we used to do it because it's kind of embarrassing, but we created all of our invoices out of Excel. We have a lot of clients that want very specific, intricate um, details, explanations, all these things on the invoice. DOTD in Louisiana is notorious for, you don't have the proper backup, you don't have the proper description, you don't have this, you don't have that. So we would create the invoice in Excel, and once the client approved the invoice, which could be a month or two later, we would enter it, like kind of backdoor it into Sage to get it forced in there.
Mm.
Not a good way of doing things. And all of the years we talked about how we needed a better way of doing it, we tried different softwares. None of them could really handle it. And Vantagepoint is capable of adding those little nuances, easy to change if there's a detail that needs to be changed. The whole billing process has been the whole invoicing process has been complete. I don't even know. Change isn't even a big enough word. It's just been a 180 from what we did before. I think that we were missing revenue before. We're not going to do that now. We were missing opportunities to bill some of the expenses. We're not going to, that's not going to happen now. It's just, there's no negative.
Yeah. So it sounds like, accuracy was also, some of those things. It sounds like you're also finding value that you didn't even know you weren't, you were missing out on, which,
Yes.
in essence ends up going to paying for the solution, ends up in the long run,
Hmm.
ended up, providing you an ROI.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's like I said, I'm not a paid spokesperson, but I know I sound like it because I just the job I had before this, we also used Sage, so it's been probably 15 to 20 years since I've used another software, and I just didn't realize, it's like you said, it was the software I didn't know I needed. It just does everything. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
So I know, invoices were more accurate. You also captured also some lost revenue from mileage units, and just overall processing was more efficient.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we get to your last thoughts, let me ask our last audience question. So, what's one thing that you learned today that you can't wait to share with your team? And so if you want to add that in there, things that you feel like you've learned today. And so, Tammy, I want to just see if you have any last or final thoughts, or maybe even thoughts of words of encouragement for others in your position who are looking for another system or considering Vantage Point.
Uh, Maybe try to be involved on the front end if you can get that to happen. And let's say you are going to be involved. When you make the decision, right away, there will be emails coming to you talking about signing up for Deltek, Learning Zone. This is the path. You need to watch these videos in this order. Really do that. Now, you don't need to sit down and watch all of them as soon as you get that email, but you're going to start having meetings and Zoom meetings for trainings, and it's going to help you save you time and money if you watch those videos before you actually have whatever particular training you're going to be having that week. Um, get familiar with Teams. Again, like I said before, use it, use it, use it. Again, I'm all about saving time and money. Those two things top, um, using Teams will save you time, money. It will keep you organized. I'm very structured and organized, so it really helped me keep track of things.
That's great.
Yeah. Um,
Any other thoughts?
I mean, if somebody has questions, I'd be happy to answer. I'm not sure if Did we cover everything that you wanted to cover today?
I think so, yeah, and so,
Okay.
mostly this is helping people just to understand a little bit more about what the process is, things that you found to value, and so my understanding from our consultant, Terry, is that you, Tammy, and just your company, GOTECH, were very easy to work with, and so that always makes things much more enjoyable, on our side when we just have amazing people that we work with.
Yes, we've enjoyed honestly working with Full Sail partners.
Yeah. And so maybe just to recap a little bit some of the things that you had mentioned. One, it probably was a decision that you wish that you had maybe made a little bit sooner. And so it's getting over that initial fear of what if, and fearing the change a lot of times people will that'll keep them from actually making the change.
Yeah.
Also, bringing Terry in the office, it sounded like that actually was one of the things. For me, one of the things that I found from a successful implementation, from a non-successful implementation, is really making sure that you have the right team. Not only on your side, but also we have the right consultant that fits personality wise, because a lot of times it's not just about the knowledge, it's also about how can this person get me
Yeah.
over the finish line? And is this someone that I also really click with as well? So that's one of the things for us. We are constantly looking at personalities whenever we're assigning consultants, through that sales process, things that people may not even realize that we're doing, to make sure that things are successful as well. So, well, Tammy, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. And it's
Sure.
been such a valuable conversation, and I hope it was for others. And so, from understanding why GoTech made the move to Vantagepoint to lessons learned along the way, I know your story will inspire and guide others who are considering the similar change.
Well,
And so, we're going to open it up. If you guys have any questions for Tammy, please go ahead and do that. While we are waiting for that, I do want to go over some final things just to be aware of. So you can go ahead and add your questions in if you have any for Tammy. And so, for everyone tuning in, I hope you found today's session insightful and packed with actionable advice. And if you are ready to take the next step or have any questions, feel free to reach out to Full Sail Partners or connect with us on LinkedIn or any other social media platforms. We also want to let you know about some upcoming virtual events not to miss out on. So, next month, we're sharing a mini demo showcasing our Vantagepoint ADP connector. It is another way to automate manual systems on Wednesday, February 12th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And for those who are considering upgrading to Vantagepoint, Terry Agnew, who is on this project, and Amanda Roussel will be presenting a webinar on preparing for a successful move from Vision to Vantagepoint. And that will be on Wednesday, February 26th at 1 p.m. And all of those can be found on our website. And so remember, the right tools can truly transform your firm, just like it did for GoTech. And
yeah.
so I'm not seeing any questions that have come through so far. So I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. If you do have any questions, feel free to add them. We'll be following up in the comments section. And otherwise, we will see you on our next interactive live session. So everyone have a great day. Thank you again, Tammy.
Sarah, thank you for having me. And anytime I can help in the future, just let me know.
Thank you for that. Have an amazing day.
You too.